All right, we'll call the meeting to order. We'll begin with the invocation and the pledge. Almighty God, send down upon those who hold office in this city the spirit of wisdom, compassion, and justice. Grant that with steadfast purpose we may faithfully serve our community, seeking the common good, protecting the vulnerable, and promoting the well-being and harmony of all who dwell here. Amen. The pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, the clerk will note all members are present with the exception of Councillor Mosby, who is excused. We have one announcement tonight, and it's a heavy one. I would like to take a moment to recognize the loss of a valued member of the city family, Aaron Benjamin, who passed away on February 19th while rafting the Colorado River through the Grand Canyon. Aaron joined the city in 2009, first serving seasonally in parks and streets before becoming part of our water reclamation division. He was known for the positivity and energy he brought to his work and for the genuine care he showed in protecting our community's water resources. He was someone who embraced life fully and will be deeply missed by those who worked alongside him. On behalf of the City of Post Falls, I want to extend our heartfelt condolences to his family, friends, and coworkers. We are grateful for his service and the impact he made during his time with us. And I would ask everybody to please pray for his family and friends and everybody affected by that. It's a difficult situation. All right, moving on from that. Any amendments to the agenda tonight?
We have none tonight, sir.
Hearing none. Declarations of conflict, ex parte contacts, and site visits. Seeing none, please present the consent calendar.
Item A is minutes from the February 17th, 2026 City Council meeting. Item B is payables February 18th through March 4th, 2026. Item C is December cash and investments. Item D is Corbin Dog Park Design Agreement. Item E is replacement vehicles for streets. And item F is Painted Rock Subdivision Construction Improvement Agreement.
Questions on the consent calendar?
I would move to approve the consent calendar as presented.
Second.
A motion and a second for the discussion. Roll call.
Lucca.
Aye.
Malloy.
Aye.
Steigleder. Aye. Plew.
Aye.
Ziegler.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you. Next up is public hearings. Tonight we have two. If you're speaking, the forms are in the back. If you're writing, please write neatly. We'll begin the first one, Prairie Medical Zone Change. We'll open public hearing.
Good evening, Mayor Westland and City Council. My name is Justin Souter. I'm an associate planner, and the project you have before you right now is the Prairie Medical Zone Change, file number ZC-25-2. The property owner is Kootenai Health, representing North Idaho Healthcare Holdings, and the applicant is OAC Services. The applicant is requesting the City Council to approve a rezone of approximately 30.88 acres from community commercial services to community commercial mixed. The applicant intends to construct a medical campus at this site that includes a future hospital bed tower. The CCS zone has a maximum height of 45 feet, while the CCM zone has a maximum allowable height of 105 feet. So the zone change would allow the hospital bed tower to be constructed at a height higher than 45 feet. And that is the main reason for the requested zone change.
If I could ask, if the zone was just commercial, would that height also be allowed?
It's capped at 45 right now.
But I mean, just zone C. I know this is currently mixed, right? Between
It
two
is
different
currently
zones.
CCS. So in the red here is community commercial services.
Mm-hmm.
And that, yeah, the height right there is 45.
But if it was just commercial,
There is no just
don't
commercial
have
zone.
there is no just commercial?
Nope.
Okay.
Industrial would be the other option, but it doesn't really fit.
So is this the only zone that would allow that height in the commercial?
As far as I know, it's the only zone that would allow a height like that, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Here's the project location. It's on the southeast corner of Highway 41 and Prairie Avenue. So you can see here is currently within the CCS zone, and that is represented in the red. The property to the north and south are also within the CCS zone, and the property to the west across Highway 41 on the corner is also within CCS, and there's also a property just to the south of that in the CCM. Then you have residential uses to the east across Zoros Road, which is in the single-family residential R1 zone. And just to reiterate, the applicant is requesting to rezone from CCS, that's the red, to CCM, which would be the red and yellow striped. The site is currently undeveloped. It's over the Rathdrum Prairie Aquifer. Water would come from Ross Point Water District, and wastewater would be handled by the city. The city has the capacity to provide service and is willing to serve the property at the requested zone. For traffic, Prairie Avenue and State Highway 41 are both principal arterial roadways and critical arterial corridors. Prosper Avenue and Zoros Road are considered minor collectors. So we will get into the zone change criteria. The first, is the proposed zoning district consistent with the future land use map and focus area contained in the currently adopted Post Falls Comprehensive Plan? The site actually has 2 land use designations. The majority of the site is within the business commercial designation, represented in pink, and the northwest corner of the site is in the commercial designation in red. Both of these designations provide a wide variety of general services, retail, professional office, light industrial, and mixed uses to serve both local and regional residents. The requested zone change is consistent with the future land use map because the site is adjacent to properties with the same land use designation of business commercial to the south and west and east and commercial to the north. The applicant is requesting to rezone from CCS to CCM, which is an implementing zone district for both the business commercial and the commercial future land use designations. The CCM zone should be applied in areas primarily located near arterial and collector streets to support commercial, residential, professional office, and civic uses that support accessible work-live environments. So the zone targets high traffic corridors with existing infrastructure, such as Highway 41 and Prairie Avenue, to facilitate large-scale development, such as a medical campus. And then the site is within the 41 North focus area. Here is a view of the site in the general area as well as the zoning. You can see there are a variety of different zones within the area, with commercial zones along Highway 41, north of Prairie, and then residential uses further to the east and west. The 41 North focus area states that Highway 41 corridor will rival Celtice in terms of importance as retail, mixed-use, residential, and services district. Residential development has been predominant in recent years in this focus area, and it's a trend that's likely to continue. Such growth is expected to spur commercial uses along Highway 41, so the focus area seeks to provide regional uses along major transit corridors, such as Highway 41 and Prairie Avenue. The future medical campus may support the residents in the immediate vicinity, as well as on a regional scale due to its location. Moving on to the second review criteria, which states, is the proposed zoning district consistent with the goals and policies of the comprehensive plan? Goal 1 states, grow and sustain a balanced, resilient economy for Post Falls, providing community prosperity and fiscal health. The zone change request is consistent with Goal 1. The zone change may contribute to a resilient economy by providing the opportunity for a new employment center to be developed. A medical campus with a hospital creates a variety of employment opportunities that contribute to the economic diversity and long-term prosperity of the city, and may even attract related businesses such as medical suppliers, pharmacies, and other wellness services. Furthermore, the commercial and medical uses along Highway 41 will require diverse residential developments nearby to support a medical campus. There are several factors that need to be considered when applying a new zone, and those are described in Policy 2. We've already touched on the goals and policies in the future land use map, so we can talk about infrastructure. Sanitary sewer is located within the intersection of Prosper Avenue and Highway 41 and would discharge to the 12th Avenue lift station. The city has capacity for the requested zone, and it is in conformance with the city's water reclamation master plan. For traffic patterns, Highway 41 and Prairie Avenue are both classified as principal arterial roadways and critical arterial corridors. Prairie Avenue will be widened to the full paved width in 2026 or 2027 with the Post Falls Highway District's Prairie Avenue Widening Project. Prosper Avenue and Zoros Road are classified as minor collectors, and when fully constructed, the adjoining roadways will have the capacity to accommodate the projected traffic volumes for the surrounding land uses. Now for Goal 7, which states plan for and establish types of quantities of land uses and post-fall supporting community needs and the city's long-term sustainability. The zone change would support community needs by allowing the development of a medical campus, which will be a major benefit to the city as it continues to grow. Additionally, a hospital can be considered a community need and an essential service. The zone change is also compatible with Policy 8, which encourages infill development within the city limits, as the areas to the south and west are already developed, and the areas to the northeast and northeast are currently being developed. The CCM zone and the medical campus would be compatible with the commercial buildings being developed to the north and other medical uses being developed to the northeast. It is also consistent with Policy 86, which seeks to work with local businesses to enhance, sustain, and diversify the local economy by supporting business opportunities related to campuses and attracting new businesses. The zone change would allow for the opportunity to expand medical services and jobs within a campus setting and likely attract other businesses to support a medical campus. The third and final review criteria: does the proposed zoning district create a demonstrable adverse impact upon the delivery of services? There have been no identified demonstrable adverse impacts at this time. Here's a list of the agencies that were notified of the project, and we received comments back from these agencies. Most of them were neutral or will comment during the actual construction or had no comments. One of note is PA4, the Urban Renewal District actually did send us a letter supporting the zone change. And then there's the review criteria once more, and that concludes my presentation. I'm available for questions should you have any. Thank you.
I have, I think, a staff-related question. Did we talk to the Coeur d'Alene Airport? In this zone, I see that it says that we need to be cognizant of flying patterns for the airport. Would the height change?
We did not reach out to them
Okay.
from, when I looked through the plan, I did not see that it was a point of concern for the flight path. I don't know if...
Because you looked at a flight path?
Yes, I looked at the, I forget what the document is called, but I looked at the document from the airport for the
Okay.
flight paths.
Okay, great.
And I can say from my position with the Ross Point Water District, we're building a water tower nearby that's much taller, and that was checked with the flight
Oh,
path.
okay, great, cool.
John was just reminding me, it's also sent to the Kootenai, where was it sent to? Kootenai County Planning. Oh, yeah, to the planning department. So hopefully, if they had any issues with it, they would comment as well.
They would be the authority on this 2018 Coeur d'Alene Airport Master Plan?
No, not necessarily, but I guess theoretically there could be some coordination there.
It just would be a darn shame if we built a big, beautiful tower for patients and it ruined some flight patterns into the airport because we didn't think about it. But okay, sounds like it is fine then, right?
We can look into that again.
Okay.
I think if we have an airplane flying at 145 feet that far away from.
I don't know anything about airplanes and how close they
It'd be
need to be to the
problematic.
ground. Okay.
I think we're well clear of the impact area
It
of the
just says it in the thing. We're wanting to go higher in the air. Seemed like a reasonable question to ask.
When I
But if we're
reviewed-
confident that it's fine. It's
When I
fine.
reviewed the airport plan, I didn't see any conflict.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. I think that's my only staff question.
All right. Does the applicant wish to speak?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you. My name is Ben McGran. I'm the owner's representative for North Idaho Healthcare Holdings, representing Multicare and Kootenai Health in this initiative. My firm is OAC. So we're breaking this project down into a couple of phases. Our first phase is an emergency department with 14 beds. We're going to have an advanced imaging center, our connected lobby, which is basically our front door, and then our medical office building. This first phase is expected to be completed in the end of 2027 and first part of 2028. We do plan to build out the right-of-way around the facility during this, which would be Zoros that goes north to south and connects to Prairie, and then Prosper, which runs east to west, which connects to the lakeside development directly to our east, the residential development.
Are you saying those would be the principal entrances and exits for the hospital, or would it also go on to Prairie or 41?
Yes, in the future build out in phase 2 and 3, we would have entrances off of Prairie for the future hospital.
But in this initial phase, you would have inbound ambulances, and so they would be entering through either Zoros or Prosper?
So this here is the overall site plan, which shows the future development. You can see right now off of Highway 41 that there is a planned entrance. We're still working with ITD on the approval of that. So we have a encroachment permit in place with them that we're working through with our traffic impact analysis that's been submitted. So we are hopeful that will be approved, but it'll primarily be for ambulance traffic going directly into the emergency department. There will be access points off of Prairie and Zoros and Prosper to the campus. We'll have a kind of a ring road around the middle part of the hospital, the future hospital expansion. But the idea is that we've anchored ourselves into the southwest corner, and that we will expand to the northeast as the project progresses over the next 10 to 15 years. As Justin stated, we look to have a hospital bed tower, about 250 beds, medical office buildings that total about 300,000 square feet, and a parking garage. The reason why we want to be able to go vertically up to 6 stories, which this would allow, is really just the efficient use of the space for vertically integrated medical buildings. And then also it reduces the site coverage and allows us to have some open space. We want to have some walking trails and gardens and areas for healing for patients and families and visitors to participate in the campus. So that's really the reason to do this, is really to get that height so that we can be efficient with our space. So we appreciate your support so far, and we thank you for your consideration. And I know that we will have some of you at our groundbreaking ceremony here that we have coming up on the 17th. So that concludes my presentation.
Questions?
Can I ask why we need to do the zone change now and not in 10 years when you start the tower, however long it is that you're looking to start the tower?
Yeah, great question. Thank you. As part of the master plan development, we have goals that we want to achieve with the square footage, right? And so when we go into it with the master plan of saying that we want to have 500,000 square feet of hospital space and we want to have 300,000 square feet of medical office building space, we can't achieve that without having the zone change now. So that we can plan for that master plan. The master plan is really predicated on that zone change to get that square footage.
Okay. I do have some heartburn about 6 stories surrounded by R1, and it not being, giving the approval for that kind of building now without it happening for a while. And how do I say? If something were to happen and you did not own this land anymore and sold it to someone else, they would by right have the ability to build whatever they wanted up to that height as well. And since your plan isn't for so long, and it seems reasonable and beneficial for the community, I don't see why it would be denied when you get closer to actually making it happen. Does that hesitancy make sense?
I can understand that. But from our standpoint, we want assurance that we have that ability now. We want that assurance. We can't wait for that in the future, call it in 5 years when we're ready to do that. Mm-hmm. Again, our master plan that we're developing is based off of the assumption that we can go vertically. Gotcha. If we weren't able to do that, we would have to completely change how we're approaching the project and the services that we're going to provide. I do take into account your thoughts on the residential next to us. Yeah. We are being very thoughtful about that. We want to make sure that there's some distance and some landscaping that barriers that. Okay. For example, the tree plantings that we will plant along Zoros, we're talking about like holiday lights and things like that will be integrated into the site so that it's kind of like a really awesome, cool, welcoming environment when people are driving around the area.
And there will be a helicopter pad on the top of this?
This will not be a trauma center. There will be no helicopter pad.
And the parking garage is not intended to be 6 feet?
The parking garage will be, that's to be determined.
6 stories. It also won't be 6 feet.
No,
yeah.
not 6 feet. No, not 6 feet, but That is yet to be determined. We're still working through whether we can do below grade parking. There's been some discussion about preserving more green space and putting some sort of like maybe play field on top of a parking garage. And so we would make sure that that is very well integrated into the architecture and design of the community so that you're not looking directly at a bunch of cars, but that the architecture is pleasing to our neighbors that would be adjacent to us.
Okay, in terms of the criteria that we are supposed to look at, while it does exist in the map of the future land use, I don't know that, based on my original concerns, it's congruent with the zoning that it's right next to, but having this conversation makes me more confident in that. So thank you for that. And then also, you know that in 5.2 it says of the development agreement that there will be no residential on this, even though CCM could technically allow you to have a higher percentage of higher density residential. Correct?
Absolutely.
Okay, great. Well, thank you for that and
Yep.
making it so that I didn't have to belabor it tonight. So.
All right. Thank you.
Further questions? All right, thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Anyone with comments?
We have none.
Nice and easy tonight then, so there's nothing to rebut. And we'll go ahead and close the public hearing. Discussion? Criteria?
I feel better.
All right.
We're going to pull up the review criteria. Remember, this is just a zone change tonight, so there is no legislative decision. This is just a quasi-judicial decision. So we will dive right in. Is the proposed zoning district consistent with the future land use map and focus area contained in the currently adopted Post Falls Comprehensive Plan?
I would say the answer is yes. CCM is an implementing zone in the master plan. There are adequate arterials to serve this type of development in that area, so I think it meets that review criteria quite soundly.
And one of the criteria is to promote the health of the community, and this literally does that, so that's nice.
I am concerned about traffic, and so I'd like to see some more of the traffic plan that went in. I know ITD is looking to widen it, but there's a school right there. There's a shopping center that's going in. Now there's going to be more traffic, and that road just, it's going to have a lot of people going through those roundabouts that I've already seen a few cars go right over the middle of those roundabouts, and now we're going to add ambulances in and people that are be not familiar or making turns and all that stuff in front of them. So in terms of the best interest, I think there is some concern with that. I definitely think that it's in the best interest to have reduced ambulance transit times and less road miles, especially for elderly people that are driving to medical appointments, and they can have something more local. There's a lot of benefit to it as well. But so far, is it in the best interest of the city? I think I'm mixed at this point.
We're skipping that one. That's the annexation question.
Okay.
We're on the one below it.
Is it consistent with the land use map? Yes.
All right. Moving on to the next review criteria. Is the proposed zoning district consistent with the goals and policies contained in the currently adopted Post Falls Comprehensive Plan that are relevant to the area under consideration?
I would say yes, the Highway 41 and Prairie corridors are identified as avenues for the higher intensity uses. Again, this literally supports the health of the community. It also contributes to the financial sustainability of the community. It should bring in a lot of well-paying jobs and definitely save lives, which is a key of sustainability of the community.
Kind of important.
So.
And it will deliver babies.
It will deliver babies.
Which is also key.
Yes.
We like babies.
I would like to comment on kind of the fiscal health of how it contributes to the community. We've talked a lot in these meetings, as well as workshops in the last few weeks about kind of yield per acre. And in this type of addition, going vertical will definitely help kind of that long-term sustainability from a fiscal perspective of the city. So I think it's a great change to that zone to allow it.
Does it though? 'Cause, I mean, most of this property is going to be owned by a nonprofit corporation, so.
They do
would-
still pay
would
taxes,
they-
though.
Would they be paying property taxes? Okay.
Absolutely.
So there's not an exemption for them? I know that the medical offices and all of that, there wouldn't be. I just wasn't sure about the nonprofit.
Yeah, we asked that question a while ago and clarified that, so.
Right, thanks.
All right, and finally, does the proposed zoning district create a demonstrable adverse impact upon the delivery of services by any political subdivision providing public services within the city?
None were noted.
It didn't say so on there, but, you know, having been in law enforcement, I know that national 911 data shows that hospitals are among the highest frequency non-residential users of police services, especially if they have an ER. They are 2 to 4 times more likely, or they have 2 to 4 times more police calls than other similar commercial uses. And so you do have, especially if there's behavioral health units, you have people being released after a 72-hour hold right into one of our busiest, soon-to-be busiest intersections in the city. So I think that there is a possible adverse effect on the police department that, especially in light of the workshop that we just had, we have to be prepared for that this could require up to an additional, 1 to 3 FTE to have somebody who's constantly taking police calls at an ER and a 6-story hospital and medical offices and all of that. It doesn't mean that I don't think that it's manageable, but I think especially with the fiscal outlook for the city, it's something that we have to keep in mind that there would be an adverse impact. The question is if it's enough or if it's manageable.
Can I ask really fast, is it on Ross Point water or is it going to be city sewer or city water? It's Ross Point.
I think so.
Ross Point, okay.
So, and I just wanted to clarify for tonight's purposes, when we consider these things, we have to consider what's in the record before us as part of the process. And so when you're talking about sort of possible adverse impacts, there's always a possibility, but we have to base our decision on what's before us and the evidence before us and whether or not it's a sort of provable, verifiable negative impact as it relates to these review criteria. So. Any further deliberation?
I have one comment, and I know most of this area abutting Highway 41 was annexed before my time, but I do remember annexing the property to the northeast of this into CCM, and part of the deliberations there were kind of a vision or forecasting of what would be a great fit in that area. In this specific conversation I remember having and I really advocated for CCM there to allow a medical campus to be built on that intersection. So to me, this is just, it makes a lot of sense to kind of what this site or this area already is set up to support. So the CCM designation makes perfect sense to me.
I would move to approve the Prairie Medical Zone Change ZC-25-2.
Second.
Motion and a second. Further discussion? Roll call, please.
Malloy,
Aye.
Steigleder,
Aye.
Plew,
Aye.
Ziegler,
Aye.
Lucca,
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you. All right. Now on to the Gaul annexation. Right? We'll open public hearing.
Good evening once again. Justin Souter here, Associate Planner. And now we have the Gaul annexation, file number ANNX-25-1. The property owners are Treva and Nolan Gaul, and the applicant is Ace Solutions. And they are requesting the City Council to approve a request to annex approximately 7.76 acres with a residential mixed RM zoning as part of an annexation request into the city. Here's the project site on the southeast corner of Cecil Road and 16th Avenue. It's actually 4 different parcels. You can kind of see it underneath the hatches there, but one project, one property owner. Here you can see the site is not currently within the city and therefore does not have a zoning designation. The properties to the north, south, and east are all within the county and contain large lot single-family homes. The properties to the west are within the city in the single-family R1 zone. And the applicant is requesting a zone of RM. Site is currently single-family homes and mobile homes over the Rathdrum Prairie Aquifer. Water would come from Ross Point Water District, and wastewater would be handled by the city. The city has capacity to provide service and is willing to serve the property at the requested density and zone, and then existing septic systems would be required to be abandoned. For traffic, Cecil and 16th Avenue are both classified as major collector roadways, and additional rights-of-way and easements would need to be provided as part of the annexation, and then road widening at the time of development. So the first criteria for the zone change is the proposed zoning district consistent with the future land use map and focus area contained in the currently adopted comprehensive plan. The future land use designation of the subject property is medium density, and the applicant is requesting a residential mixed zone, which is an implementing zone district. A mixed zone blending commercial and residential may be considered in areas as they develop, providing they feature high traffic volumes and or are located and designed to function as pedestrian-friendly focal point to the surrounding neighborhood. The site is adjacent to properties with the land use designation of medium density to the south and east and low density to the north and west. There are also some business commercial designated properties further south along Cecil, and that's in the pink. Further guidance for growth in this area can be found in the comprehensive plan with the Central Island focus area. And a particular challenge for this area has been the incorporation of county islands into city limits. So there are some guiding policies found in that focus area. So the focus area includes key policies to guide development in this area, including promote infill, prioritize annexation opportunities, support development that provides pedestrian connectivity, and focus provisions for commercial uses along arterial or collector streets where traffic exceeds 4,000 trips per day. Annexation of the property may promote infill development while maintaining the general characteristic of properties within the immediate vicinity, and may also help facilitate better pedestrian connectivity as Cecil Road and 16th Avenue would both be improved at the time of development with sidewalk. Additionally, both Cecil and 16th are major collector roadways with anticipated traffic capacities between 4,000 and 12,000 trips per day. Traffic counts from 2023 shows Cecil with an average daily traffic exceeding 4,000 and 16th Avenue exceeding 3,000 trips per day. It should be noted that these traffic counts may have been impacted by the State Highway 41 construction that was going on at the time of the count, and the results may be slightly skewed, resulting in slightly higher on Cecil and slightly lower on 16th. However, model projections for both roadways anticipate between 4,000 and 6,000 trips per day by the year 2045, with the design parameters for the roadway classification. And then just taking a look at the general area, we have a handful of churches or religious assemblies. There are apartments both to the north and south. And then you have Highway 41 less than a mile away to the east. And then not shown on here, you have Mullen Avenue less than a mile away to the south. Here is a conceptual plan of what the applicant intends to do, and this is contained within the annexation agreement as well. So the applicant intends to develop the property with R2 RM density with single-family cottage home with a small amount of commercial on the northwest corner, and that's represented in the red.
That's the NC?
Neighborhood commercial.
Okay, thank you.
And then the rest of the site would be for the housing, open space, and roads and whatnot, and the R2 RM density is there represented in the yellow. The target density would be consistent with the future land use designation of medium density, as well as other single-family homes in the immediate vicinity. By providing a small amount of office or retail space, the applicant hopes to create an environment where residents can have easy access to retail services, entertainment, or convenience store, or a local small business opportunity. The churches and apartments in the area may also benefit from some neighborhood commercial that's within walking distance. When we look at this area in the yellow with the R2 RM density, the development agreement specifies that single-family, attached or detached, duplexes or townhomes are the types of residential uses that would be allowed. The Planning and Zoning Commission asked that we dive deeper into the allowed uses within the RM zone. So I've listed some of the commercial uses that are allowed within the RM zone. Now, this does not mean that the applicant is tending to do any of these. It's just an example of what could be done. I'm sure the applicant can tell you what they would like to see on the property. But these uses on the left, in the column on the left, are uses that are allowed by right. And as you can see, they're mainly focused to be very neighborhood, commercial, and smaller scale. So you've got a neighborhood shopping center, a grocery store, less than 17,500 square feet, a convenience store without gas pumps, restaurants, but not fast food, so no drive-throughs, a veterinarian office, or a mixed-use building. Then there are also a few uses that would require a special use permit. This also is not an exhaustive list, but just as an idea, a general office building or a bar or a church would all require a special use permit, which means they'd have to come back to the Planning Commission for an approval for any of those. A mixed-use building with residential and office or retail would also be an allowed use. There's a handful of use, and when thinking about a mixed-use building, we have a local example that may be helpful. Once again, the applicant has not indicated that this is something that they're looking to do, but just an example of something that could be done as a mixed-use building. This is the mill that's in Coeur d'Alene. It's on the northwest corner of Government and Mill Avenue. So you have some shops on the bottom floor. There's a restaurant, a coffee shop, a salon, I believe, and then some units above that. I also want to note that the max height in the RM zone is 45 feet, so you would not get something that's quite this tall. And then last point is in the RM zone, commercial development is limited to 10% of the overall site. So here what you see in the red is a pretty accurate or good depiction of what would happen at the site. And so when you're thinking about neighborhood commercial, they're going to be pretty limited to how much commercial they can do on the site or what kind of development they can do, because they would have to fit it within that 10%. So then moving on to the second criteria, is the proposed zoning district consistent with the goals and policies contained in the comprehensive plan that are relevant to the area under consideration? Goal 1 states grow and sustain a balanced and resilient economy for Post Falls, providing community prosperity and fiscal health. The RM zone can deliver attainable housing choices in the form of cottage homes, and diversify the housing stock may assist in sustaining a balanced and resilient economy. And then you also have some opportunity here for a small amount of commercial. Policy 2 describes factors to consider when applying a new zone. And so talking about infrastructure, sanitary sewer is located within 300 to 600 feet of the eastern boundary of the site at the intersection of 16th and Tanzanite, and at Lapis Avenue and Cecil Road. Sewer flow would discharge the 3rd Avenue lift station, which has capacity and is within conformance with the city's water reclamation master plan. For traffic patterns, Cecil Road and 16th are both classified as major collectors and currently configured as 2-lane roads. However, to accommodate the projected traffic volumes for the year 2035, both Cecil and 16th would require widening to the major collector configuration.
For the length of 16th and Cecil, or just at this property?
Just at this property, just on their frontage.
That will be weird, right?
We see in other areas of the city, but these other parcels to the east or on the north of 16th that aren't within the city, we wouldn't be using their property to widen the road.
What about the 16th to the west? Is that 2 or is that 4 already? That's in the city, yeah?
I believe that is 2, but then it looks like they've already given some of the right-of-way dedication. So what you see west of Cecil would be like as far as the width of the street section. See from here to here.
Yeah.
It would look very similar to that, but only along the project site to the and on the south. So they're only required to do the improvements on their property and on their side of the
I
road.
understand that they don't have to widen the entire block of 16th. My question is more, is the traffic plan to widen all of 16th to be 4 lanes, or it truly is only for this property, like when the other
I see what you're saying.
one's in?
I would defer to Rob, city engineer, for the
Great.
traffic.
It's ready.
Primed.
It's been a long time since I got to talk to you here. Hi, Rob.
Good evening. Good evening, Honorable Mayor, members of the council, Robert Paulus, City Engineer. So on your question, the master plan that we currently have in operation, as well as the master plan that we are working on, both show that Cecil Road and 16th Avenue will be 3-lane roadways by 2035 to handle the full volume.
Okay.
Now, how growth actually occurs between now and 35, we may not fully have those 3-lane roads in place. We grow as development occurs. They put in those jigsaw puzzle pieces, and then we end up with the final product when everything's developed along that roadway. That may mean for certain periods of time, we may have to live with a slightly lower level of service.
Okay.
But in the end, if growth occurs at the rate we anticipate or faster, we should have all those improvements by the build-out period of the master plan.
So for this section of 16th, should this all be approved and move forward, that section will be widened to be 3 lanes or 4 lanes?
3 lanes, that is what the major
Perfect.
collector is. We do not, a 4-lane road would step into a arterial roadway.
Okay. And then presumably as those other pieces of property annex in, should they would widen to match what it currently is?
That is correct.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
Any
And
other-
the same is true for Cecil, obviously.
The
The
same is
same
true.
idea.
The same is true for Cecil as well, yes.
Okay, thanks.
Yep,
So these would be 1 lane of travel in each direction with a center turn lane?
correct. And with the major collector, there's also the ability for us to have bicycle lanes and parking on one or both sides, depending upon what configuration engineering staff views as working best with the growth as it occurs in that area.
What if this project was developed, let's say, in the next year, then that Cecil would be a 3-lane road?
In that
In
section,
that, just next to the contiguous red line there?
yes. It's almost 1/8 of a mile section, which goes a long way towards what we're trying to accommodate long-term.
And that's with the property owner dedicating part of their parcel to the roadway, but not the people on the west side of Cecil, correct?
The people on the west side of Cecil have already built to a collector standard.
Okay.
The collector standard has changed a little bit since, I think that was about 2003 or 2004 when that subdivision went in. But with the dedication that this proponent would be required to do, and we would be able to get the current standard for the road width in place.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay?
The annexation is also consistent with Goal 12, which seeks to maintain the city of Post Falls' long-term fiscal health. The proposed annexation could be considered an efficient and effective measure to providing housing closer to the city-provided infrastructure and services, and neighborhood commercial may also add to fiscal health by providing opportunity for small businesses. The project is also consistent with policies 8 and 9, which encourage infill development and annexation of county islands. The annexation and proposed zone may help provide an opportunity to encourage infill development, and furthermore, the site is within a county island with services and infrastructure nearby. And it's also within a mile of commercial services along Highway 41 and Mullen Avenue. Third and final review criteria, does the proposed zoning district create a demonstrable adverse impact upon the delivery of services? And there have been no identified demonstrable adverse impacts at this time. Here's a list of agencies that were notified of the project, and we received comment back from these agencies. They either remain neutral, will coordinate at the time of development, have no comments or no facilities within the area. And then there's the review criteria once more for you. That concludes my presentation. I'm available to answer any questions, should you have any.
Can I get some clarification on 5.2.10 in the annexation agreement with regards to the neighborhood commercial? I'm not familiar with the rules of neighborhood commercial because I couldn't find, I don't know, in my papers anything that gives me the setbacks or the height or what's allowed and not allowed. But this says residential development shall be restricted to attached or detached single-family homes or duplexes if townhomes are constructed no more than 6 single-family unit structures, which I think is lovely, and I read it and was very excited. But mixed use is not single-family detached or attached. That's apartments or condos. So would that be allowed in this section?
Correct. So there would, within that neighborhood commercial zone, you could have a mixed-use building that has an apartment or a unit above some of that commercial space.
Except that this development agreement point says that you cannot.
Maybe John could come help clarify some of this.
Okay, thanks.
So the intent of that condition was to deal with standalone classifications for residential type housing, not to trump the allowed mixed-use building that would be allowed by the RM zone by itself. So if needed for added clarity, we could add and augment that 5-2-10 if it would help meet that intent.
So, sorry to jump in.
Yeah.
So for the public hearing, we hold the public hearing on the development agreement, but we can make changes to it. It still has to come back to council. So if that needs to be tweaked or clarified as to talking about the residential versus the mixed use, we can do that in the interim.
Can we do it right now? Can we talk about it right now?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, great.
That's what I was saying.
Okay, okay.
The motion can be to include an edit to the development agreement to that effect.
Okay.
That sort of thing.
Personally, I think that this is a lovely build out in this area, provided that it doesn't have what is more commonly referred to as high density housing, which, while it is a small portion, I think is what most people view what would be on top of a mixed use building. So for me, it would not be helpful to have an added point in the development agreement allowing that on top of a commercial, especially not to the height of 3 stories. Maybe I could be convinced to do just 1 story on top, but I don't think that the nature of this area with the other duplexes and single-family homes, detached or attached single-family homes that I was sort of hoping had 45 feet, 3 stories. Is that what that is?
Typically, yeah, your 45-foot is a 3-story development.
Yeah, I think, like I said, I think it's a delightful mix in this residential area that's mostly R1, but I think that at 2 stories, it's a delightful mix. At 3 stories, I think it will be upsetting to the nature of this area of town. So that's what I would request on the development agreement.
And what kind of framed the development agreement was in collaboration with the applicants, looking at what they were trying to do. And they could speak to it more once they get up. But their goal was to get some attainable type housing in this area, and their goal was to do cottages and maybe that mixed use type product.
Yeah.
But being that as it may, we actually threw some additional conditions in it because, as you know, somebody who comes in and applies today may want to do a different product in the future. So staff added some guardrails within the development agreement that was coordinated with them, even though they currently don't intend to develop that currently.
Sure. And when I read that, I really appreciated that point, but then was caught off guard by that one. So.
So yeah, we could look at height. So for some reason you guys were open to mixed use and you wanted to add a height restriction, we could go that route. If you wanted
Okay.
to not do mixed use, you guys can discuss that.
Okay.
But that's for you guys to determine how you'd want to handle that mixed use product.
Gotcha.
So just so I'm clear on your question, you're talking about a height restriction on the 10% that is allowed for mixed use on that parcel?
Yeah, I mean, my original question was like, how can you allow mixed use if in the development agreement, there's a point that literally says residential shall be restricted to single and detached, like single family detached and duplexes, which is not at all what that mixed use building
So
is.
your intent on that, if trying to get this straight in my head, is
So that was my
the
original
re-
question.
The R2 more or less zone would be for the balance of the property minus the mixed use area. Is kind
Yeah.
of what that development agreement is trying to accomplish.
Yeah, the intent of that 5.210 wasn't to infringe on the automatically allowed mixed use
Portion.
product in of itself. It was to, for standalone residential units, for that to be restricted to those types of housing, the single family, attached or detached, the duplex and or townhomes, and then put some guardrails. So if there was townhomes, you didn't get 20 of them lined up in a row.
But that applies to the whole zone, which seems like it would disallow the mixed use building.
Yeah.
Because,
As
yeah.
written, I can see how you.
Yes,
yeah.
so that's what I wanted to clarify, but within the conversation, I decided that I sort of like it being restricted at 2 stories. So even to allow mixed use. So that's how that happened. Sorry, Nathan.
Just trying to catch up.
Okay,
Good discussion.
thanks.
This seems very unusual, thinking about other neighborhoods in the city to have a corner commercial all surrounded by R1, and there's still, I think, some existing ag to the east of that, or at least large lot development. Was that discussed? And I'll say the reason for my concern is, some of our goals like keep neighborhoods safe and attractive. It really would depend on what type of commercial went in on that corner, which, we would have minimal control over. So was that discussed? And is it unusual?
I don't know of other neighborhood commercial mixed-use developments like this in the city. So I guess you could say in that sense, maybe it is unusual.
Prairie Falls might be a good example.
What's that?
Prairie
Prairie
Falls.
Falls.
Like anchored.
The golf course clubhouse and
Yeah,
Restaurant?
that's a good point.
Micro
Pizza
hotel.
place.
So there may be some more examples out there that I didn't think of or even provide. But yeah, that is sort of contemplated within the residential mixed zone and in the focus area of the comprehensive plan. I think there was a second part of your question about commercial uses, and that's what sort of this slide is for. So it's not an exhaustive list of everything that is allowed within the RM, but this gives you an idea of the type of uses that would be allowed. So we can't, I guess, regulate the, necessarily the content of what businesses go in there, but we do have within the code what types of uses are allowed to go in there.
Right. But for example, could they, I know the property owner is envisioning a coffee shop or a bakery, something that would be really nice and quaint and contribute to the neighborhood, but could it be a massage parlor? Could it be some other use that could potentially, and maybe this goes to the next question about adverse impact, but could there be something there that doesn't accomplish that goal? In other words, it doesn't keep our neighborhood safe and attractive.
I don't know about a massage parlor in particular, but when I looked through the list today, that was not one that popped up. And again, I think that's sort of within our, built into our code of what do we think is appropriate in the RM zone, and that's what's listed that's allowed by right.
So neighborhood commercial already restricts a lot of things that we definitely don't want in residential areas.
Okay.
And if there are some that are maybe a little more sensitive or need some extra care, maybe such as a bar, that would be a special use permit where it goes back to the plan, it goes to the planning commission for approval, so there's a lot more oversight for some uses that may seem, I guess, a little more sensitive.
Are you done? Okay. Question about the property to the northwest. If my memory serves me, that came up to council not long ago, and I believe was annexed to the city.
Oh.
Do we know what zone that was annexed to? I don't remember, so
Looks like R2.
R2 exclusively. It wasn't no or a mixed use or anything.
Just R2, shown from the zoning map, yeah.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Yep.
So the reason I'm asking is, we're talking about rights of way and the continuing safety and services along 16th Avenue. That parcel, just north of the existing city parcel, would also kind of is already in the plan of development for that arterial. So.
Sorry, can you say that again?
So the northwest of the subject property tonight has already been annexed in. So while it's undeveloped as of today, I think it speaks to what Rob was talking about on kind of piecemealing as properties coming into annexation, that 3-lane arterial that 16th Avenue will develop into. So those pieces are kind of, although hasn't really changed since that annexation, it's already in.
But that was single-use residential, right?
Residential. But speaking specifically to how the arterial will be developed out within annexation.
Yeah, because I'll say my concern is not, infill makes total sense and would be a positive. It's just that commercial piece that I'm not sure meets our goals.
Any other questions of staff? All right, the applicant.
Good evening. I am Nick Ebner, professional engineer with ACE Solutions, the owner's representative for tonight. I want to thank Justin and the rest of the city for your presentation. And you guys, we're going to probably just hit on a lot of the same things you've heard, but I just want to make sure that we talk about a lot of this, some of these things. So, as mentioned, the Gaul lot the Gaul property is four parcels within Kootenai County, just under 8 acres. Currently in the county, it's zoned high density and ag suburban, depending on which lot you're talking about. Bit of a history is that at one point they did talk to the county. They are allowed, it sounded like, I believe the number of units that they currently have on there, they could probably double or triple that, and they would still be within what the county would allow, the number of mobile home units. But the goal right now is to get annexed into the city and provide a different project. So anyways, what we are proposing is residential mixed. As mentioned, we are located in a county island right on Cecil and 16th. There's parts of the city that are R1 and parts that are R2. And we believe that residential mix is a good transition between the two. So residential mixed, as mentioned, the residential part, we're going to kind of be searching for an R2 density. We're going to be most likely building, or we will be building, cottage homes, which are kind of smaller units. You guys will probably know the city recently did a housing needs analysis, and a couple of things that were highlighted were that single-family detached homes are the priority, and to try to get those lower cost without them being truly, affordable type rental houses is kind of the goal. Although also another goal would be to try and get lower rents for seniors. These are two possible ways to make that happen in a bit of a more innovative way, rather than having high density townhome or our apartment building, we can accomplish that with cottage homes. And then the commercial aspect, as mentioned, the total amount is not to exceed 10% of the lot, so we're limited to less than an acre. And the limited uses are small retail, possibly daycare, gym. If we do have an office building, it has to have that combination, otherwise we have to go back for a special use permit. Yeah, no gas station, no department stores, no fast food. Councilor Lucca, as you mentioned, the idea would be for a local bakery, an ice cream store, perhaps a daycare. However, we don't know that at that time. There's nobody signed up for that, but that's the goal. And another possibility within residential mixed, you are allowed to do multifamily. We are not seeking for that tonight, so I just would like to highlight that. As mentioned, the city showed you our conceptual layout. The idea would be that the commercial is focused up there on the intersection of Cecil and 16th. There will only be 2 access points. The one that's currently existing is called Bantam Avenue, and there will probably be one more created just to the east. And as mentioned, part of the improvements, we will be widening the road at Cecil and 16th, and also installing sidewalks and stormwater swales to match the rest of the design of the city. And for utilities, sewer will be served by the city of Post Falls. There is some mains located in Salina and Lapis, which are not far away. And same thing with water through Ross Point. There's a couple of mains. There is a main right at 16th, and there's also one at Cecil and Lapis that we can extend up to meet our property. And so I would like to thank you for your time, and I think I will invite Treva Gaul up to take a few more of our time here.
Hi there. I'm Treva Gaul. I want to thank you all for serving our city. It's important to me. I remember back when I was a kid going to Girls State and doing all this. Anyway, for fun, just for 1 week, not for all the work you guys put in. But anyway, I've been living, owning property in Post Falls since 1997. The first subdivision house that we purchased was over on WESTLUND. At the time, right off of Pines, and real life was coming in on that 30 acres and blocked our view of everything. And so right before that happened, we sold, and we're driving down Pines Road, the gravel road there, and saw an old double-wide trailer. And that's what we could afford because we still had our little ranch in Montana. And so back in 1998, we purchased that 2.5 acre piece. So I've been around and I've seen a lot of it. They ended up taking the front part of our property. We helped pay to pave the road, and then they put a subdivision right in front of our house. And I've got horses and cows on the property right now. So then we bought the 2.5 acres behind us so that we could still see the sunsets. So ultimately we left and moved out of town, finished raising our family and taking care of our parents, and then moved back to Bantam Court, which is right next door, bought a home there, and then we bought the trailer park there in 2016, almost 10 years ago. And so at that time, we found out that it was zoned high-density residential. I've been to the county for over 15 years looking at situations, and they told me that it was 38 units per acre that we were allowed to put there. So I thought, I'm from the country. I don't like that. We have 8 units on 2.5 acres. They're old, they're ugly. The whole place was even uglier. We've remodeled. If we could, we would just fix things up and rent them and be fine, but they gotta go. They're old and ugly. We've been doing tree service work, so our log yard is there. You can drive by, you can see my horses, you can see my cows if you look very deep. Anyway, so the city talked about these little homes, these little cottage-style homes, and we were very excited about it. And so we want to put the 5 acres that's left after we give a lot to the city and do a lot of the building of the roads and everything. We want to put all the little cottage-style homes. We've been looking at the Ark and speaking with Noah, and we liked his little homes, but they were just a little bit too tiny. I've looked at them for a long time, and I just thought, oh, let's just make them a little bit nicer. Still small square footage. Originally, I thought maybe we could own the property and lease the land, and then I just don't want the headache. So we're just going to sell all the homes to maybe new young families or to older families that can't keep up their 3,500 square foot homes. And so as far as the high density residential spot, we felt like that since that is already high density and we chose not to do that, and that's almost exactly what we thought we would do, is put a bakery, coffee shop. We've been asked to do an ice cream store. I've been dealing with a guy that's been counseling with a lot of small businesses on how to build and do their things. I know it may sound funny to you guys, but I'm a dog lover, and it seems to be very popular now, and I'm thinking of a dog grooming shop. I mean, little ideas. When I saw that first picture go up with this grandiose building, I'm like, yikes, we could never afford that. We're doing this out of our hard work and money that we've earned. And so we don't have any huge grandiose schemes. I'd like to get my husband out of climbing trees. He's going to be 65 and he's been climbing trees for 30 years. So that's our goal. And just a nice commercial area there to look good, to clean it up. And who knows, maybe we'll live in one of those little homes and be happy there. I have a dear friend that is a chef. She'd like to cook some nice meals. I had ideas of renting the top stories to the people that owned the bottoms so they could be close. And I don't know, I'm a small town girl. I like a small town feeling, and that's why I like Post Falls. I lived in Coeur d'Alene. I've lived out of town. I keep coming back to Post Falls. And who knows, though, as much as it grows, I might have to move to Worley or something like that. I don't know. Thank you for your time. I appreciate all you guys do. I really appreciate how hard you guys have worked to get this all put together.
Mrs. Gaul, before you go, I just want to say that your story is a great American story of starting small and working up and all that. And I'm excited that whatever happens here, that this will be something of value to your family. And so thanks for your stewardship of that land all those years. And I really like where you say you want to go with this, and the fact that you're still potentially going to stay in that neighborhood is a testament to how you want to continue to steward it. So anyway, it's a great story, and thank you. I hope your husband gets out of those trees.
Thank you.
Safely.
I appreciate it. Any other questions?
Yeah, quick question for you too. There's concern down here about building heights.
Sam has a concern.
On the building heights of the commercial mix part of it, would you have any objection to limiting the height to 35 feet as opposed to 45 feet?
Is that plenty of room to build a 2-story?
That should be plenty for a 2-story, right?
Yeah, I don't really have any, I never had any grandiose building ideas. I don't like high stories. I went to South Korea in January and I got dizzy.
Okay.
Are you intending to be the landlord for the commercial part or just sell it?
Yeah, actually I am. Actually, we are. We're hoping that will be our retirement income, is to actually rent out and I don't know, I have this crazy idea of putting a Euro shop in there and making Euros, because that's something I love, and that's where we actually had our first date, and I think they're really popular if you do it right. And we don't have any in Post Falls, and they're really not hard. They have one on 6th Street in Missoula that when we were going to college we'd go to all the time, and it was right in the neighborhood, and they had the spit, they made the gyros, and now they're still going 45 years later. And it's pretty, I don't know, I just think that's a great plan. You get people hooked on that and they'll come back.
As long as you're okay with a large percentage of our population calling them gyros.
Oh, that's because I don't think I say it right either. I'm not from Greece.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
How's your delight factor, Sam?
I feel great.
Delight factor up.
I'm excited. I want to go to all of these places. Well, maybe not the dog. If we could do cats, then I'm going to go to every store she puts in there. Or a duck shop.
Yes.
Okay, we have comments.
We have none.
All right, nice and easy, so there's no need for rebuttal. We can go ahead and close the public hearing. All right, we can go through the
All
questions.
right, first one up tonight, for this one, because it is an annexation as well, so we'll take that up first. Is the annexation of the property in the best interest of the city?
Yes.
I would say yes.
Central Island, right?
It feels in the county pocket partially. Really important part is increases the sanitation within the city, get rid of a lot of those septic tanks, and improves connectivity between some pretty high intensity uses within the city.
Agreed.
Agreed.
Getting nods from everyone,
Yes.
so I won't call for a vote.
Agreed.
All right, on to the zoning criteria. Is the proposed zoning district consistent with the future land use map and focus area contained in the currently adopted Post Falls Comprehensive Plan?
I'd say yes. The land use map calls out medium density specifically, so this fits that to a T.
I would also like to point out, this is a bit of a unique parcel within the county that is designated high density. We don't see that very often. So for us to go to a medium density is actually a reduction of the number of units per acre. So I think that's of note.
Just to be clear, it's the residential mixed, not
Yes,
like
sorry.
RM, but residential mixed.
But it's high density county.
High density county.
Yeah, that's what you're saying.
So would you say that that is an implementing zone in
Yes,
that?
it is an implementing zone in the comprehensive.
So stated.
All right, on to criteria 2. Is the proposed zoning district consistent with the goals and policies contained in the currently adopted Post Falls Comprehensive Plan that are relevant to the area under consideration?
Again, I would say yes. The goals and policies promote annexation of county pockets. It wants to promote infill development. And this development, particularly this zoning designation, would provide for a diversity of housing types that currently doesn't exist in a very high proportion in the city. So,
Correct, sir.
Long-term fiscal health, it's nice to have commercial mixed in with residential.
Absolutely.
Improves walkability. Keeps the small town charm. I don't know what numbers these are, Field, I'm sorry.
Works for me.
Okay.
All right. Finally, does the proposed zoning district create a demonstrable adverse impact upon the delivery of services by any political subdivision providing public services within the city?
none were noted.
I would like to note my skepticism that the Post Falls School District is, anyway. The difference between what is said publicly by the school district and what has been submitted, but I do not think that it is enough to change my decision about this project.
No.
Thank you.
All right, we've gone through that. Further discussion?
Does anybody besides Councilor Steigleder have any heartburn about the 45-foot?
No.
Height?
I don't.
Well, I would say that, I did have those concerns that I mentioned in the previous discussion about what might go in there. I think Mrs. Gaul changed my mind on that. I think that she'll be a great steward of that land, based on your history there. So, and I look forward to the fact that you want to help other people start out in the same way that you did and achieve their dreams. It's great, it's beautiful, it's American, and it's Idaho, specifically North Idaho friendly. And so for that reason, I'll be supporting it.
Okay, well, if I'm the only one with heartburn, but Mrs. Gaul says that she's okay with putting it in the development agreement, can we please have it?
So I'm last to speak on this, I know, but even if it was at the 45 feet, I don't think I would have any objection to it, mostly because if we are going to position ourselves as we have stated of being small business friendly, I think it is incumbent upon us to also consider if we're going to allow commercial development in these little pockets, to also support their viability. And I think to limit their commercial viability by limiting the kind of vertical growth that is allowed in this zone would be hypocritical, I think, to our stated goals. So I would be in support of allowing the annexation and development as written.
Can I just state that I don't think I'm being hypocritical, and that I don't think that it is the appropriate place for the type of density that would be allowed as the development agreement is written. But I'm not against being supportive of commercial developments by any means. I just don't think that this teeny tiny 1 acre plot in a residential, already mostly built out residential area is the exact spot to consider going vertical. So I guess someone can make a motion. We'll see where it goes.
The other consideration was, I believe, there's the amendment to the development agreement to make it clearer on the neighborhood commercial. Again, I think it's probably okay as drafted with the residential, but it could be clearer as to that not applying to that 10% mixed neighborhood commercial development.
Yeah, I would be supportive of making some clarifying changes to that verbiage.
I would move to approve the Gaul annexation ANNX-25-1, and that it be designated the residential mixed zone, and further direct staff to clarify the development agreement such that the restrictions on single-family housing does not apply to the 10% potential commercial area.
Second.
A motion and a second. Further discussion? Roll call.
Steigleder? Sorry.
Sorry to do that to you.
Yeah, for real. I ardently do not believe that this is the right spot for a 45-foot building, like on any piece of this property. So I think that it is absolutely the wrong thing to do to build it up to that. And I also take issue with the idea that limiting it means that we're limiting commercial development. Mrs. Gaul, I appreciate everything that you said, and I tend to trust you that this is not going to turn into something. And while that's not official deliberation criteria, I will vote. Okay, you find me, ma'am. Aye.
Aye.
Plew?
Aye. Again.
Step ahead of the game here.
Ziegler?
Aye.
Lucca?
Aye.
Malloy?
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you. All right, we are done with our public hearings. Next up is unfinished business, and we have none. New business, and we have none. And citizens' issues. This section of the agenda is reserved for citizens wishing to address the council regarding city-related issues that are not on the agenda. Do we have anyone wishing to speak? All right, and name for the record, and there's a timer in front of you, correct?
Oh, I'm sorry to see that because I enjoy these stories, and my name is Kim Brown. I'm with the Post Falls Historical Society, just to connect with Mrs. Gaul. I'm a former Montanan, so we have a lot of things in common, Montana Girl State and all the respect for government and living in communities. I loved her comment about starting small and working up. And I can't think of a better example of that than the Post Falls Historical Society's little museum over in the Chapin building. So my comments to you tonight involve some comments that were made at the last month's meeting. And it has to do with National Register nominations of the building, maintenance costs, and how we got there. There was a question about how does the Post Falls Historical Society fit in with the Museum of North Idaho? And I will tell you that several years ago, of course, the reason we have a Post Falls Historical Society and Museum is because former mayors, Franny Wilhelm, Cecil Meyer, Don Camps, and Mr. Helmer, and a lot of citizens felt that we had donated photographs and artifacts to the Museum of North Idaho. They were in a little recycled gasoline station, and with a large scope of Museum of North Idaho, they didn't feel that Post Falls was being represented. Their history wasn't. So I'm going to leave you with a lot of information because some of you are new here in town. So we want to get you up to speed as to where this little organization came from, why it's working to preserve and share the history of the town. As far as maintenance costs, I will tell you that the use of the Chapin building came about after the city of Post Falls built this beautiful complex. And the citizens were wanted to have a museum, but little Chapin building was open, and due to comprehensive planning, and our citizens gave the input that we want to preserve that building, and a museum would be a perfect little fit. So we had been around for 20 years doing all kinds of historic preservation, but we had no place to put any of our materials. Now, you know that even if you live in a small house, it can be wonderful. You can maintain it. You can have a wonderful little house and still have a pretty nice little family. So that's kind of what we're doing there at the museum in Post Falls. As far as maintenance costs, before we could even get into the building, the south side had to be brickwork and new doors. There was over $50,000 put into that building before we could walk in. So there have been a lot of maintenance costs that we've been doing in the building. And our treasurer is here tonight. We're going to be submitting a letter of intent and also take advantage of your RFP proposal. But I want to let you know that we've spent, in the upwards of $100,000 on that building. So as far as saying that we haven't maintained it, well, we certainly have. So we can get in the details. We'll be giving you that information. As far as the National Register nomination, Eric Keck, who was a former city administrator, started to work on a National Historic Register nomination. We have several of them here in Post Falls. They're a little more tricky than you think. And that building was not eligible at the time that we moved in. So if it hadn't been for our remodel, it wouldn't be eligible right to this day. As far as keeping the upkeep of the building, the register nomination became stalled right before the building turned 100 years old because we had excessive water that came into the basement and we had to shut down. So after a year of being shut down with COVID and a year of being shut down because of mold, we were dead in the water, literally. So and I'll let the treasurer handle all of that particular aspect, but the register nomination was stalled at that moment. And because we didn't know really, is the building going to be maintained? So before we're going to put any more time and effort into it, that's why that was truncated at that moment. It's still sitting, waiting to be done. So as far as the other aspects, hours that were open, hours that were open, I will say this is, when you're talking about community service, I can't think of a better organization that's devoted no cost to the city, worked on a grant with the Idaho Heritage Trust and did gutter maintenance, and they came up, and I can't tell you how beneficial the Idaho Heritage Trust and other organizations in Idaho have been to the Post Falls Historical Society. I've got some handouts, background information. I'm almost out of time. But the Idaho Heritage Trust has given, at no cost to the city of Post Falls, a 10-year maintenance plan for that building. It has historic integrity. And an organization like the Idaho Heritage Trust packs a lot of wallop in the state of Idaho. I honor their work, and I hope that we can maintain that building based on their architectural historian's work that she has provided our community. So we've got a lot of background information. I'm going to leave you with a little packet. I hope that if you have any opportunity, please, anytime you want to visit, I didn't even get into our hours, but anytime, any of you that want to come in to the Post Falls Historical Society Museum, you can call our office, and all of us will run down. We will give you personal tours. We give those tours, and guess what? It's not going to cost you any money. It's by donation only.
We're over time.
Yeah, I see that.
Thank you.
So I'm going to leave you a packet, and do I get another 5 minutes after I sit down and the other folks come up?
You can always send us more info by email.
I will. Thank you so much for your time. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to speak? All right, name for the record?
My name is Cindy Mead, and I'm the said treasurer for the Post Falls Historical Society. Good evening, Mayor and Council. Thank you. I've been actively involved with Historical Society since 2009, and somewhat before that, as my parents were charter members. Just want to, after the last council meeting, I just thought some clarifications might be in order. We are only open, as Kim said, with volunteer hours. So if you only have so many volunteers, that's all you can be open. Now, we have always maintained to, over the last several years, that we've been open 24 hours a week. That's a lot of volunteer hours for only 4 or 5 people to put in all summer. We are open mid-May through the end of October, so that's a pretty good commitment on our side. Then we're open for special tours. In fact, this Friday, I'm going to be giving a tour for a descendant of Frederick Post. Winterfest, we had about 125 visitors come through in December. When we first, as Kim said, when we first came into the agreement with the city for the building, use of the building, a lot of work had to be done. And that's, I'm still digging through records and getting an actual count on the amount, but just on the remodel, we think we've spent way over $50,000 on that so we could come into the building. In 2023, we lost most of our visitor season due to mold mitigation that we did due to problems in the water in the basement that was there long before we ever came into the building. So mold mitigation and mold prevention, we've spent $13,000. We got the grant to do the new gutter on the north side of the building. We also paid to have a heat tape put on so we'd have no more ice dams on the back of the building causing more problems. When the awnings that were a part of the charm of the building, and we were sad to see them go, but because of disrepair, they had to be removed. So then we had to spend over $2,000 for UV protection, blinds, and window film on our windows to protect the artifacts we do have in the museum. I'm the type that if I see something that kind of needs done, I kind of sometimes jump in without maybe asking for some donations on business parts, the business community to help. So the fall of 2024, the wood exterior trim was in very bad shape. So I cleaned it, I caulked, I painted. So I just want to present those numbers to you to show that we haven't been an idle occupant of the building over these past years. And we'd really like to be able to keep it as a museum. And that's all.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Do we have anyone else wishing to speak? All right, seeing none. Administrative staff reports, we have none tonight. Mayor and council comments, nothing from me. Councilors? All right, seeing none, moving on. We do not need an executive session tonight. Is there any other business to come forward before we adjourn? Seeing none, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you.